Today we're going to dive into tokenized stocks and how this could be changing the entire financial system. You don't want to miss it. Let's just jump in real quick. I do have a guest today, and it is the CEO and co-founder of Bakkt Finance. You guys will know it as xStocks. So welcome in, Adam. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Obviously, there is a big, I won't say argument, but consideration between traditional finance and what's going on with, obviously, within xStocks and what we'll see around tokenized stocks. I want to go to a clip real quick, play this for you, and then get your opinion of what Ken Griffin had to say. Take a look.
Ken, talk to me about the tokenization push.
I mean, I'm going to tell you what I say. What a great opportunity for shysters. Let's find a new way for retail America to just get absolutely hosed. The U.S. securities market is extraordinarily efficient. I love the members of the tokenization community. Oh, it's so expensive to trade today. I don't even know what my annual DTCC fees are. They're so low. Great transparency in our companies. There's been very little corporate fraud in the United States. Not just corporate profit, but consumer value created by Apple is stunning. That is when a capitalist system is working for its citizens. And tokenization is not part of that story.
Okay, so I'm not going to respond to that. I'm going to let you, Adam, respond to that real quickly. What do you think in terms of Ken's statement there?
You know, I don't want to clash too much, but I will say that first, the world is not just the US.
Yeah,
okay, I know
sure.
people in the US are very US centric, and I can appreciate that, and I understand that, of course. But there are many people around the world today that don't have good access to the market. And I think this is the first and most important thing that we're doing, to be honest, democratizing, in a way, kind of access to wealth accumulation. So that's something that I think, is not existing well today in the world. And I don't think anyone can debate that. Now, whether or not the market itself, also for institutionals in the US today, can also be, let's say, more efficient in a way, I think yes. It took them 40 years to go from T+2 to T+1, where in crypto we're doing atomic settlements. So I actually see a lot of similarity between stablecoins and tokenized equities. Stablecoin started as more of a kind of a crypto native thing, and then went more to accessibility to dollars around the world. And now, in a way, it's coming back more of an infrastructure play, even for companies like Stripe and Visa and MasterCard, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think the same will happen with tokenized equities. I'm not saying that the current infrastructure today for the average US retail is not good. Robinhood accounts work pretty well. Until they don't, we've seen that also lately. But I think this is a very kind of US-centric kind of view. Tech-wise, you cannot argue that the current infrastructure is as good as crypto rails. That's just a tech perspective.
Yeah, and when you look at a lot of these Wall Street types, it seems like whether it's Ken Griffin, Jamie Dimon, you go to look, even Larry Fink, they're all talking their book, and they all have a lot to lose for a transition in a market that eventually is going to be and happen the way that we think it is, and that is going to be coming in terms of tokenized securities. And what this might look like, if you look at your overall transaction volume right now in xStocks, reaching now $1 billion, do you think this is going to explode in the near future, or do you think this is going to take time to grow?
Yeah, well, that's $1 billion on chain, and you can see $5 billion on the left for
sure.
plus DEXs. Yeah. Again, going back to markets like stablecoins and digital, like tokenized gold and others, this is creating new financial primitives on chain.
No doubt.
It's not going to whatever 50 billion, 100 billion in 3 months. Okay, that's not the kind of market it is. But we definitely see the demand. We definitely see the growth. We see the excitement and the interest. We're building something that I think is robust enough to grow into these numbers. And, if you look back, the time it took to, for Tether, I think, to go to 3 million and then 10 million.
For sure.
Yeah, it's geometric growth, right? It takes you like a certain time to go from 1 million to 10, and then from the same time to go from 10 to 100, and then to a billion, and then to 10 billion. That's what I assume, and that's what I I think, will happen in this market as well.
Well, and if you look at just the uptake that we've seen with xStocks, obviously available on Phantom, this has been one of the biggest reasons, now trading obviously within the Solana ecosystem. We'll talk about that in a minute, because that in itself, I think, has kind of created a pretty big opportunity, because it's still very early in terms of how tokenized stocks are being done. But here's the cool thing. I was looking at this right here. You guys posted this out in terms of access. Bybit, 70 million users, Gate, 30 million, Kraken. You can kind of see the lineup here. It's not going to be long before we start to see some pretty big uptake on this, for sure.
Yeah.
When you look at Ken Griffin's position from a KYC standpoint versus a non-KYC standpoint, make the case for non-KYC.
To be honest, for me, I think permissioned assets are just not very interesting. I'm like a crypto native. I don't think stablecoins would have succeeded if they were KYC, right? It's just not, it just doesn't work. It's much, much harder to grow, and it doesn't benefit from the interoperability of crypto. And I believe that the future is permissionless.
No doubt, permissionless is the way to go. I'm a big believer that the non-KYC route will take. The concern I have right now is this transition period between old finance, traditional finance, and what this will be in terms of next generation finance, which is where I think we are right now, a little bit in the middle. How long that will take is the real question mark. If you look at tokenized stocks in general, and this will be a good question for you. If you compare right now, this is just showing by platform right there. Is it more important in terms of total value, or do you feel like it's more important by active addresses, the actual people that's out there? This is showing that. What do you think?
I can tell you that, if you go back to the due analytics that we have before, my most important kind of KPI is unique holders. That's the most important thing. I think xStocks just crossed 34,000 unique holders. You need people to kind of engage with them and trust them, and you need to create a network effect around them. And that's, that takes time. For a big player, like BlackRock, or it doesn't matter, right? To create something with a huge kind of AUM for a product, for them, $1 billion is nothing, right? So it doesn't say anything. And you can have whatever hundreds of millions held by a single entity. We've seen this also early on. People have been talking about tokenized securities for a long time. We've seen banks like Santander, in a way, issue this debt or bonds where you had basically one holder. It went from one pocket to the other of the bank.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not interesting, right? It's basically them just saying that, or doing some crypto kind of or blockchain experiments, and like to have their own kind of crypto people or blockchain people and brag about it. But in the end, if you really want to bring it into the masses and you want to create a real product that people actually use around the world, right?
Where do you think critical mass would be? I'm looking at here at your total unique holders, as you said right there, 34,000. Where would critical mass happen for you? Do you think it's 100,000 users? 250,000? What do you think that would be?
I would say in the hundreds of thousands. Yes, that's kind of critical mass indeed.
Yeah. Do most people care about shareholder rights like what you see in traditional finance, or just pure and simple price?
I think most people care mostly about financial exposure. They care about things like dividends or other things, but mostly like less people, I think, care about voting rights, let's say.
You just mentioned dividends. How does this work with xStocks? If you have dividends within a stock, how does that play out? Where does that go?
Corporate actions is a very interesting kind of thing, right? Because we're bridging the old traditional finance into crypto, and these two just, in many cases, doesn't match, right? There are things that doesn't work the same tech-wise or the way that just UX-wise as people expect things to work, right? And dividends, I think, is one of them, although there are whatever, like 80-something corporate actions that you can think of. But dividends is probably the most important thing, along with splits. The way we chose is kind of a rebasing, similar to an ETF, that is doing kind of accumulation or drip, I think they call it in the US. Basically, when we receive it, and we buy more shares, and then we rebase the token so that people now have more tokens.
I see. Okay. So it's kind of bled into the system, which creates kind of a better benefit for the user. Okay, perfect.
Correct.
I'm looking.
But the idea is that we want to pass the financial, basically, every financial value to the end user.
That would be interesting because obviously there's some tax benefits there in playing it that way. I'm also looking at a comparison right here. This is just in reference to a tweet you had accessible for the people. There's a statement here, compliant for institutions. You look at that, and if you kind of compare this to, say, Ondo or Securitize, which would be the other platforms that are working more on the institutional side of things, is it more risky than going that route, or do you feel like xStocks is starting to create its own security itself?
I think we're creating our own brand, and I'm less, to be honest, in general, I try less to look at what others are doing. We understand how the product should look like and how the market is expecting the product to behave, and also what we think about regulatory. And we've been doing this for several years, and I think we have good understanding of how regulation works. And we've done, I think, the most extensive regulatory work in the space by far. Our products are basically MiFID II grade in Europe. Right. We have a full prospectus, like an S1 in the US, for example, for our products. We can stand behind this statement.
I like it. When you look at other chains out there, here's Sui Network, first Sui in history, talking about, and this is in reference to Apple, and this is their first ever synthetic stock purchase now on Sui Network, starting with Apple, so Apple X available over there. Do you think is every chain going to have their Apple version of synthetic stocks, or do you think this is something eventually you guys will look at cross-chain?
We started the xStocks on Solana, which is great. It's been absolutely amazing with the Solana Foundation and the community around Solana, to be honest. And we're very happy about this choice. And now we actually launched on Ethereum recently. So the tokens are also on Ethereum. And we're planning other chains as well. I think there's going to be basically we're building a native bridge so that you can go from chain to chain. So definitely, I don't think it'll be, there's no USDC for each chain, right? There's one USDC and you can basically move it. That's how I see the future.
Well, and I think, you have to look at the opportunity here in terms of growth, which is if this really starts to take off to the scale that you're talking about, I think a lot of these key chains are really going to be in a position to start offering these, which is only going to expand tokenized securities as a whole. Speaking of that, Robinhood, once they launch tokenized stocks, what happens to xStocks at that time? What happens to tokenized securities when a behemoth like Robinhood, who has a much different, profile in terms of their investor than traditional finance does, what happens after that?
Until now, what we've seen, at least what I've seen, the Robinhood products are not supposed to be permissionless, which, as I said, I think is less interesting for the market. Or, maybe let me rephrase that. Maybe it's a different market, Okay, all right. But the market that I see as a crypto native, I think the permission kind of approach that I believe Robinhood is taking is less interesting.
So just a different profile in terms of investors that are going to be looking at that. So it's really investors going after two different, even though they might be buying, traditional finance stocks over on Robinhood, the question is whether or not they're going to leap into the tokenized side of it. I'm looking here at gold reaching an all-time high of 4,000. You guys, of course, have Gold X available. What about silver? Any plans for tokenizing silver, with silver booming right now in the market? Well,
I can tell you that we're doing another batch of products right now.
Okay.
I cannot say if silver is there, but we'll have a new big batch soon.
All right, you're telling me silver's there. That's what you're saying, Adam. Adam, here's my question. Tesla, absolutely killing it. Why is everybody holding Tesla X stock right here? Why do you think this is such a popular one?
Well, I think, at the moment, this is a very retail kind of, product. We know retail like Tesla, and we know crypto retail like Tesla in particular. So I cannot say that I'm surprised, to be honest. This is very much what we expected. And you can see, I think there's almost $25 million of tokenized like Tesla X, over 10,000 holders just for Tesla X. So I think quite remarkable.
Yeah, it is quite remarkable when you look at that. And I think the opportunity, to your point, is that, that profile of investor matches up so perfectly with the crypto retail profile that we're seeing. So I totally am in agreement with you. Clarity Act could be right now very close to an approval. If we get it through Congress, how does that change what's happening for you guys? Do we start to see a whole bunch of xStocks starting to make it here into the US markets? Or do you think this will just benefit what you guys are doing?
I think in general, we've taken for years, because of the previous administration that has been very anti-crypto, we've taken an approach that was in a way kind of, stepping back from the US. We've built on top of European regulation that gave clarity and kind of avoided US, of course, clients altogether. And, now that with the new administration and the very much more pro-crypto SEC, we're, of course, engaging and we want to bring xStocks to the US. But, we've been very careful throughout the years with respect to regulation, and we'll, of course, not do anything before we have regulatory clarity. But we're definitely engaged in that.
I like it. All right. So the future is bright. Last question I have for you in terms of a potential token and an airdrop. Could that be in the future?
At the moment, there is no kind of plans for Bakkt to do a token. Bakkt is a kind of an equity company, which I think suits the business quite well. You can do, I think, other airdrops of interesting things. So I think you can still use this mechanism maybe, but at the moment there are no plans for an airdrop or for a token.
Well, I like the idea is that maybe there are some other mechanisms for airdrops, because obviously as we start to see the user base grow, that kind of reward does so well in this community, as you know, and it does create kind of that huge community effort that really starts to coalesce around something like xStocks. So, hey, Adam, this is great. We're going to continue to watch this because we believe this is a huge opportunity for the industry. It's a huge opportunity for crypto worldwide. I commend you for doing just that, making it more of an available process of building wealth really around the world. So thanks for coming in on the show today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, you guys, make sure and get in on the Diamond Circle. We love to get your comments, too. If you like these kind of shows and you like us to explore the broader base of crypto, let us know in the comments down below. Of course, you can join the Diamond Circle also just with the link. It's free. So jump in on that and follow me out there on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Barron Show.